So President Trump's continued tariff rollout is really rattling some small business owners. There are, just to recap, a couple of weeks left on that pause on tariffs for Mexico and Canada. There's a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, 10% on goods from China. But for some other companies, all of this tariff talk actually has an upside for them. So joining me now is Ross Widmeyer, CEO of Faribault Mills, 160-year-old plus maybe company that has managed to make itself virtually tariff-proof. Thanks so much for joining us, Ross.
Nice to see you, Amy. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So am I characterizing that correctly? That you're virtually tariff-proof? Is there any way these tariffs could affect your business?
Yeah, tariff-proof is probably a good way of saying it here. We've been around, as you said, for 160 years. We're a proud, not only Minnesota manufacturer, but proud made in USA manufacturer, which means not only all the products that we make that you see on our website and in our stores are made either here in Minnesota or at our other mill in Maine, but we've also shored up our supply chain where virtually everything we buy and put into our products is also produced here in the United States. So we feel pretty comfortable whether the tariffs come or even if they don't.
Yeah, and what's interesting, and one of the reasons we wanted to chat with you is because imagine, other small business owners are looking at you going, okay, wow, how did you do this, right? So obviously we know that, 100% made in America is just, it's not as cost effective right now, otherwise more people would do it. So how have you been able to navigate things like increased labor costs, regulations to continue to grow?
Yeah, it hasn't always been easy, as you can imagine. But we've been able to do that really with the support of our customers and the support of our employees and by making a timeless heirloom quality product. We've been doing that for 160 years, and I'm sure many of your viewers maybe have a Faribault Mill blanket in their home and they know the quality for which we stand. And so that's made it a lot easier, but we've also made a significant investment in this facility here in Faribault Mill over the last few years. We put in multiple millions of dollars into new equipment to automate some of our production processes. And we've really invested heavily in not only recruiting, but retaining a skilled workforce here in Faribault, Minnesota. And that's certainly been a key part of our success.
A lot of people know that I think it was just after the 1917, 18, something like that, Faribault Woolen Mill at the time was supplying blankets to the U.S. military. It was like 10,000, I think I was reading. And now my husband will tell you that when you join the military, you will have socks and you will have wool blankets. I'm curious if those are still yours, if you still have these sort of military contracts, and is that still the case?
It still is. In fact, we're in year 2 of our 5-year contract with the U.S. Navy, and we're just about to, we think, win another bid on a contract with the United States Army. And as you said, we've been doing this since before World War I. And the U.S. military requires everything, all the components that go into our products, everything from the wool all the way down to the finest stitch. All that needs to be made in the United States, and so. We've been doing that since before World War I, and certainly that contract has been a great source of sustainability for us as a company.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and it's an important point because that is something you might have that maybe another business owner might not. What would be, what do you think as you look at sort of, President Trump wants us to be a manufacturing powerhouse, right? He wants to bring it back here. What do you think needs to happen in the next, let's just say 4 years while he's in office to make that come true?
Yeah, I think there have to be more companies like Faribault Mill, to be honest with you. And as I tell people all the time, we not only have several barriers to entry in our industry, every industry does, but to be a made in USA manufacturer, you have essentially a moat to entry. So, new investment in equipment, investment in a skilled and qualified workforce, I think is key to anybody being a manufacturer here in the United States. And I think, our politicians, whether they be in Washington, D.C., at the state level or even at the local level, have to get on board as well to support companies like ours who are, doing the right thing by their workers, making things in the United States. And I think if all those things come together, we can have a manufacturing renaissance in this country. And we certainly would be proud to be an example and a big part of that too.
Well, and I think it's too important to point out. So you talked about the struggles. It's not like this has just been easy and you've sailed. Your trajectory has been going like this. In 2009, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but 2009 shut down. And at that time, I read this may or may not be accurate. You were producing more than half of the new wool blankets made in the U.S., which, if that's true, seems like, wow, that was happening, but also had to shut down and then reopened a few years later with this new branding. So what was happening kind of in that 2009 period where, they just weren't able to make it go? And then how did you come in and start to turn that around?
Yeah, I think it's, what happened here at the mill in Faribault is not too dissimilar to what happened to most textile manufacturers throughout the United States. I mean, if you look back at American economic history, textile manufacturing was a cornerstone of what we did as a country, and sadly, most of that had been offshored in the 80s and 90s, and we certainly weren't immune to that tidal wave of offshoring. So we closed down, but there was vision by some investors and family up in the Twin Cities to come back and make a go of this thing, and that's what they did in 2011, which was yeoman's work to get this place back up and running. But we're one of the last two still doing this in the United States today, and we hope that others decide to do it. We welcome the competition in the industry, but we certainly, as we say around here all the time, if we weren't one of the best blanket makers in the country and indeed in the world, we would have stayed shut down and we would have been closed down a long time ago.
Well, we appreciate you joining us and taking this snapshot. There have been so many stories about how the tariffs may affect small businesses who are obviously importing a lot of their goods. But this is an important piece of the story too, which is your story. Congratulations on your success. You continue to grow, add new products, We'll check in with you, I think, maybe in a year or so, and just see how you're doing, and continue to share your story.
Thanks, Amy. We appreciate your interest and look forward to the journey.
Okay. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate your time.
Take care.